Hello and welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
What's up, people? How you doing? Michael, how's the move going?
Oh, it's going okay, man. You know how it is? It's like you put up all the shit you think you don't need, all the unnecessary things, like way too far in advance, and your house looks blank, and then you procrastinate.
And then you end up needing half that shit that you put away already.
Yeah, you end up needing some stuff for sure. But then you also, you save everything else for the end because you don't want to live in your house without all your shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you don't realize how many things you become accustomed to using on a daily basis. Just little shit, you know? Yeah, it's where's the cup I put my toothbrush in? You just want me to throw it on the counter like an animal? Like what kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you do end up living like a rat or something. You just got shit all misplaced. And
yeah,
I'm looking forward to this next move actually, because right now we're like living like I could throw a football and hit the lot that we're building a house on, and we're like, I don't know if you guys knew as listeners, my wife and I and my two kids have been living in a trailer as we're in the early process of building a house, and it's a nightmare, man. It's like all the crap you need to do. Like we got the house plans engineered, but now we got to get the plumbing engineered and the electrical engineered. It's just like one thing after another. We haven't even moved a piece of dirt, and we've been here for 4 months. So by the time we do have the house built and we move, we're gonna be able to just like throw shit in a wagon and walk it over there if we have to. Like it's so close. Whereas you're moving to freaking North Carolina, you know, it's gonna be That's like you really got to be strategic about what goes and what stays and what you're just gonna get rid of. And
yeah, you start prioritizing shit. You're like, and that's kind of what we're doing. We're like, okay, all these boxes are priority one. Like these got to go on the truck. And we're like, this stuff, not so much. You know, it's 3 or 4 down on the list. Like this doesn't have to be. You start realizing like, do we really need that piece of furniture? Like it's really heavy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do we really need it?
No, dude, our last move when we moved up here, we just started giving everything away, dude. Having yard sales, and by like the second weekend, third weekend of yard sale, we're just like, please fucking take it.
Just take
Everything's
our stuff.
Free. Get it the hell out of here.
I did that.
Look at it.
Yeah, I did. We did that a lot more so when we moved from North Carolina to here, because we had a house full of shit, and we'd lived there our whole life, so we had collected so much shit, and then we moved out here in a 4x8 trailer in our SUV. So we got rid of everything. We did the same thing. Like we had yard sales for the last 3 or 4 days we were there, and then on the last day we just put a huge cardboard sign out in the yard, just said free. And it was just there was all kinds of shit. It was like dressers and weed eaters and shit. People just like, whoa, it's fucking Christmas.
So if y'all had any doubt as to our dedication to this podcast, just realize all the shit that's going on, man. Our lives are hectic right now. I'm living in a trailer. You're moving across the country again, but this train's still rolling, baby, and we ain't stopping. So,
and you know what? I'm gonna get this episode up this weekend, and then, well, it's already up. Obviously, you're listening to it, and then traveling in the midst, and then we'll have a freeloader episode next week. We won't even miss a beat.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not? Seriously, man.
And from a comfort standpoint, like I'm trying out recording in the trailer right now, and like we got a pretty nice trailer we're living in. As far as trailers go, I am literally chilling like a villain right now. I've got my recliner, my pleather recliner that I am completely reclined in, and so I'm thinking, how the hell have I not been recording like this forever? Like I am just like, comfort is key. Like I saw a comedian recording a podcast recently. He was doing it in like a hotel bed, like fully, like just laying back, like shirtless. Just recording. I'm like, that's how it should be done.
That is how
this
it should
be done. This is a podcast. Why should we do it all business like in a studio and all that? Fuck that.
No, I'm
gonna do it nude in a recliner from now on.
Yeah, who cares? Especially now we're remotely. It's not even weird.
Exactly. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's. Dude, don't fall asleep on me during this podcast, okay? If I hear you snoring over there, we'll know.
Yeah, no, we're good. So you ready to talk about this freaking greaser wannabe Fonzie and fucking Elvis weirdo?
Yeah, what? This dude, man.
The Pied Piper, baby. Let's get into it, huh?
Let's do it.
All creatures living beneath the sun that creep or swim or fly or run, the mole, the toad, the viper. They call me the Pied Piper. The Pied Piper. The Pied Piper. The Pied Piper. Can you see? Don't be scared to move. What are you trying to prove? are you trying to prove? Don't be scared to move. What are you trying to prove? All the creatures living beneath the sun, they creep or swim or fly or run. The mole, the toad, the viper. People call me the Pied Piper. Living beneath the sun, all they creep or swim or fly or run. The mole, the toad, the viper. People call me the Pied Piper.
All right, so our case this week, guy named Charles Schmid, or the Pied Piper of Tucson, Arizona. Interesting case. We used another book from the Bloodland series by Harold Schechter. This one's called The Pied Piper. What'd you think of the book?
I mean, I thought it was just as good as the pirate.
The pirate?
Maybe even better because
agree.
I wasn't expecting it to be so recent of a case because I didn't really look into it at all before I heard this. I totally didn't even know about this guy as a quote unquote cult leader, if you want to call it that.
Now, when you say recent, dude, were you thinking it was like some old folklore shit because it's called the Pied Piper? Because it was back in the early 60s that he did his killing. So it's not like it was very recent.
I was thinking much older. Yeah, I was thinking like around the time of the pirate, I was thinking like late 1800s, early 1900s. I thought the Bloodland series was like all going to be, early American crimes. I don't know. That's just what I thought.
Yeah. Well, I thought maybe you thought that because of the tale of the Pied Piper, which is very dark, and if you guys haven't heard about it, we should talk about that briefly.
Sure.
The Pied Piper. I mean, some people think of the Pied Piper as like there's a superhero apparently in the Marvel universe or some shit. I'm not really into comic stuff. I mean, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are. I'm not trying to offend y'all. Yeah. All right, I'm just saying I'm not really into it.
If you know who the Pied Piper is.
So when I looked up Pied Piper, I've heard the real tale from Germany back in the Middle Ages. I've heard briefly, so I re-looked into it again and was just as creeped out the second time I looked into it, man. So basically, do you want to tell the story of the real Pied Piper and where it came about?
Yeah, isn't it mainly from a poem?
Well, no, there was a folklore tale from back in Germany in the Middle Ages.
Oh my God, was it written by the Grimm brothers? Probably
I'm not sure.
Was, but
basically the tale goes that there was this town in Germany. I forget the town. I don't even know if it even still exists.
Hamlin.
Yeah,
Towns,
it was like
Brunswick.
Hamlin or something like that. Okay. Well, the town was infested with rats, and it was like an epidemic. And this weirdly dressed person called the Pied Piper comes into the town and offers to the mayor to get rid of the rat problem. For what, like it was like 1,000 whatever denomination of money they were using at the time.
Right.
So the mayor agrees, probably thinking, what's he really going to do? He's not going to be able to fix this. He actually plays his flute and leads the rats, like they all follow him. He plays this friggin' flute, and then all the rats follow him out of town, and he leads them to a pond or a lake where they all drown, and he gets rid of the rat problem. And when he goes back to the mayor of the town for payment, the mayor says, I'm not going to pay you.
That's pretty damn
Pied Piper
shitty.
says, very well then. Yeah, it's pretty fucking shitty. And so the Pied Piper goes, all right, very well then, and goes on his merry way. And not long after that, on the day that the whole town went to church, the Pied Piper returns. And he walks into the church and he starts playing his flute, and every kid in town gets up out of their seats and starts following him. And the same thing happens. He leads them to a body of water where they all drown. The only exception was a few children, like one of them was deaf. One of the kids was like crippled and couldn't follow along fast enough. There was like just a few kids that survived, and for reasons is that they just couldn't keep up or they didn't hear the music or whatever. But yeah, very creepy tale.
Yeah,
and that's where like pay the Pied Piper came from. It's like he didn't pay him, so he paid in a different way.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up, man. He should have paid him, especially since he did it. I mean, you should have been so relieved. Should have been like, here's a blank check. These rats were ridiculous.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the kids.
You got to pay your debts. That's the thing. Is like there's a lot of times in life where you agree to something because you're thirsty for that whatever it is in the moment, and then the high of whatever it was. Like I always thought you should pay up front for food at a restaurant. Because by the time you're done eating and you're all full, you're just like, I don't want to pay this shit now. I'm not even hungry anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, but a lot of people are like that. They're like, I want this thing now. And they like are willing to pay whatever. And then they get it and they're excited. And then the high wears off. And then all of a sudden they don't really want to pay it anymore. There's a lot of assholes like that will never pay you for shit once they already have it.
You know, number one example.
And this is a good story as to why you shouldn't be.
Number
like
one
that.
example of something you're talking about is a new car, dude. When you
Yeah.
just don't drive it. Like, you just need to look at it on paper and be like, if I was just looking at it, you know, would I be able to, you know, what would my month to month bills look like with this figured in?
If it's a 5-year loan,
Yeah.
3 years from now, am I still going to be just as happy about this and still
Right?
be
Think of something you bought.
okay with paying these big ass
Exactly.
payments?
Think of something you bought 3 years ago. How do you feel about it now?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
you don't give a shit.
You're bored with
bored
it, right?
with it,
It
dude.
just now gets you to work. That's all
Yep.
it is.
That's right, dude.
So, yep. But this guy ended up being being dubbed the Pied Piper of Tucson because of his lure, I guess. Like, he had like a vibe about him, and he was like, the murders that he did, he kind of lured off a couple of women.
I think
Well, the first killing, he lured her off, but there was some coaxing on the part of another person. He had accomplices in the first one. I don't know if it's the greatest nickname for him. It just kind of stuck. It doesn't make a ton of sense,
well,
really.
it's because all of his followers
but-
were so young, so they're saying that kids followed him. But I don't really think that's so strange because he was small in stature and looked very young for his age. You know what I mean? But
Well, he was caking on makeup too, man. This dude was
Yeah.
very strange. Strange looking because of what he did to himself. I mean, he was actually not a bad looking guy, but he made himself very creepy, in my opinion. But I guess it was also, this is fresh out of the 50s with greasers and, you know, and like Elvis was huge at the time,
Right.
and he was obviously trying to impersonate Elvis in a lot of ways. Like, his look, he dyed his hair black, caked on makeup. He put on a fake mole, which seemed to like get bigger and bigger on a weekly basis. And by the time he was caught, it was like taking over his face. It was out of
It was at
control.
least a blotch. That was a
So big.
blotch.
It was like the size of a 50-cent
No
piece,
doubt.
dude. Like, it just kept.
It's like,
getting
how big
bigger.
is a beauty mark? And like anything bigger than, like, what was it, Cindy Crawford? Anything bigger than that? That's not a mole anymore, bro.
This dude was so
like a cancer
strange.
spot.
Yeah. Yeah, and he put like a bandage on his nose to make it look like his nose had been broken. To look like a tough guy, greaser. Drove a badass car, and there's reasons for that. We'll get into his upbringing. His mom, his adopted mother, really kind of let him just do whatever he wanted. Gave him money, gave him his own place to live, and just like, that was a big problem. He had too much time, too much time and money, and nothing to do, and very little education because he dropped out.
You know what I heard?
And he had a little case of little man syndrome too. He was very short, and he used to stack his oversized boots with rags and stuff to make himself look taller.
Newspapers and
Interesting character. Very
Well, you know what?
Very conceited, and some say a psychopath as
I heard
well.
something different about the bandage on the nose thing. There was another theory that I heard that he wore it in order to build up the bridge of his nose. Because if you look at pictures without it, he has like a very weak bridge. Like, it's very curvy, almost like elf-like. And I don't think he liked that. I guess
Almost Pied Piper-y, you would say.
Almost Pied Piper-y. But it wasn't a strong nose. And someone with a little man syndrome wants to look as domineering as possible. So I think the Band-Aid did a double fold. It made him look like he was tough and in fights, but it also built up because of the actual pad of the Band-Aid made it look like his nose bridge was straight down. So
Yeah.
it kind of gave him like a more
I can see
domineering
that.
look.
He was posturing in any way possible, man. Like, he was just trying to be the town tough guy, cool guy, pull up in the badass like muscle car, top down, like, just get out. And he was all about his image, and it worked with certain girls.
Well,
He
it's
did all
going to
right.
work with young kids, dude. It's going to work with the teenagers,
Yes,
the
that's
people
what
that
it
he
is.
attracted.
That's the Pied Piper thing. I think that's what it is. Is like, he was luring in young girls with his older age and like his cool car and like his image that
And
he put
guys
on.
as disciples, honestly.
Well, yeah, young dumb dudes that had nothing else going
Yeah.
on too. Like, it's not like he had like great accomplices. He had people who had nothing better to do that were just hanging out at the racetrack every weekend
Exactly.
and had all dropped out of school. This was a time period that we'll get into. Cue the doo-wop music, where it's like just post 50s, like this perfect world that we have of the image of the 50s, where everything was just peachy, and then as it transitioned into the early 60s, there is like a wave of rebellion from the youth, man. And there was a lot of kids going out and getting into trouble. And I think this is kind of his persona that he tried to create. He was playing off of that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Those damn hippies, man. They were changing things.
Right. Well, maybe it was like between then and like the Woodstock era where it was like free love and everybody's running around nude and smoking doobies and
People didn't know what to
you
do.
could smoke a whole sack of weed and hardly even get high.
Yeah, somewhere in between there and the greaser stage, people were just like putting fake moles on their face and putting Band-Aids on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just this real confusing time.
It's a weird time that we're talking about in this case. It was the weird mole stage, you know? Everybody knows
likes
that
to talk
shit.
about that stage in American history.
All right. So let's dive into Charles Schmid, his childhood. He was born Charles Schmid, or actually no, he was actually born to a different last name because he was ended up being adopted as a baby. He was born July 8th, 1942. He was an illegitimate child who was adopted by Charles and Catherine Schmid, owners and operators of Hillcrest Nursing Home in Tucson, Arizona. We don't know his birth name because he was given up for adoption by his mother. He was left by his mother on the Schmid's property as a baby, and the couple decided to adopt him as their own. He was left on the property. That's like a movie. Like, he left on the doorstep, like fucking Harry Potter.
That
like,
is
what?
some Pied Piper shit right there.
Right? She just ran away with a fucking flute.
Right. Oh my god, that is creepy. I didn't.
I just picture his mom like carrying him up there, sitting him down, and then skipping off, wearing some like knee high pants and like playing a flute.
It's just like,
Yeah. Rats following her and shit.
like she probably got the rats to carry him over to the doorstep.
Yeah. Weird ass lady. He had a difficult relationship with his adopted father, whom Catherine Schmid eventually divorced. When Schmid tried to reach out and meet his birth mother, she angrily told him to never come back. Oof.
Ouch.
That's brutal. And his relationship with his adopted father, apparently he was beaten quite often for almost nothing. And by the time he was an adult, he said that he hated me and I hated him. That was pretty much the relationship we had with him. However, the relationship he had with his adopted mother was more of a friend. Like, she wanted to be his friend type of thing and give him whatever he wanted. Like, they had money. Like, his adopted parents had plenty of money. And so he got whatever he wanted. Eventually, later on, she would give him his own, like, townhome thing that he could live in as soon as he was, like, a teenager and dropped out of school. He had his own place, had his own really nice car, and she was giving him, like, $300. Was it $300 a week or $300 a month? Whatever it was like really good money for the time to do nothing. He had no job and he was just making this money.
And they wonder why he turned out the way he did. Like, really?
Right.
Like, this wasn't a recipe for
what
disaster.
Else was he gonna do?
Oh my god.
I mean, that being said, like, of course he was going to be an a-hole, like running around town doing whatever he wanted, but he also had like a psychopath factor to him where it's like that you don't jump from I got money and I'm Mr. Cool Guy with a fancy car and I can do whatever I want because I dropped out of school and all that to I think I want to kill somebody.
Well, I think
I want to kill a girl. Let's pick a girl and let's go out and kill her.
I think the biological parents maybe had a little bit of pull on that just by giving him up. I mean, because he obviously found out that he was given up as a baby. Like, they didn't even try. So,
and then his mom, he finds her and she rejects him yet again. That's got to
be weird.
Very tough to deal with.
And then his dad was an asshole, right? So I think they had a little bit to do with that psycho thing. I don't think being treated that way ever quite leaves you once you find out about it.
Right. Yeah. He did poorly in school and was described as good-looking, intelligent, and well-mannered, and an accomplished athlete. Yeah, he was a badass gymnast. He excelled at gymnastics and even led his high school to a state championship, but quit the team in his senior year. So he would do like the rings and stuff. So very strong upper body. And like we said, short, so he didn't weigh a lot. So if he had a strong upper body and he was a smaller stature, that's like perfect for a gymnast. Short legs, you can just swing them legs around with your big upper body.
He was like 5'3", right?
Yeah. But he would stack those cowboy boots up. He got oversized cowboy boots and stack them up, and he'd make them like
put
5'6".
Newspapers and shit in there.
And he walked real strange because of it. He walked like Forrest Gump when he had the braces on. But everyone was too afraid to say anything about it.
He's walking around looking like he got weak ankles. Like they're just busting out the sides on each. This is like,
run, Forrest, run. Just before graduating, Schmid stole tools from his school's machine shop to work on the hot rod he was building and subsequently was suspended. He never returned to, so rather than return the tools and get reinstated into school, he chose just to drop out and keep the tools.
Yeah, I mean, that was perfect for him.
Which, like we said, why wouldn't you? He was not being pushed by anyone to
No.
finish school. He was getting everything he wanted and needed anyway. His mom would just give it to him. And so what's the point in even going to school?
Exactly. That's like renting a book at a library and then moving towns, man. It's yours. You're welcome. You know, now you got it. That's all he wanted. He didn't care.
Yeah. Not long after this, Schmid began transforming himself into a grotesque caricature of a 1950s teen heartthrob. He dyed his hair jet black, coated his face with tan pancake makeup, applied white lipstick to his mouth, darkened his eyelashes with mascara, and made a fake beauty mark out of putty and axle grease. So that was his mole. It was made out of axle grease.
Okay. Well, I mean, that puts a manly spin on it, though. You know?
I guess when you're still kicking on
Using
makeup
some
and putting on
fucking
mascara.
Baby Weld and axle grease over here. And make sure that shit ain't coming off.
In a move to further emulate his idol Elvis Presley, Schmid clipped a clothespin to his lower lip to make it appear larger. So he's getting that pouty lip look as well.
Oh, he's getting that with that Kylie Jenner. He was way ahead of the times, dude.
Dude, I would end up probably getting in a fight with him because when I saw him at school or in the street or whatever, trying to act tough with his pouty lips sticking out, looking all ridiculous, I would probably just start laughing, and he'd be like, I could just picture, what's your problem? You know?
Yeah. Yep.
And I'd probably keep laughing until he got in my face.
Right. He'd be like, "Want me to put one of these size 14s up your ass?"
Yeah. That are stuffed with socks.
Right, on both ends.
Probably be really soft when he kicked it with all them socks stuffed in there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So after quitting school, he began living in his own quarters on his parents' property and received a monthly $300 allowance. His parents left him to run on his own with a new car and a motorcycle. I didn't know he had a motorcycle too. Of course he had a motorcycle.
All on his own.
That fits his image as well.
I love that. I love that. On his own.
Yeah.
With his own house and car and motorcycle that was bought and
Basically
money coming in.
A bad boy trust fund baby, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
Poster boy for white privilege right here.
Yep.
He spent much of his time on Tucson's Speedway Boulevard picking up girls and drinking with friends, although he tended to be a loner. His best friends were a misfit named John Saunders and a dumpy high school dropout named Mary French. Saunders was a skinny, nearsighted asthmatic who was bullied throughout his childhood. The fact that Schmid even paid attention to him was a big deal, and he was eager to do his bidding. That's kind of the way Schmid brought in his disciples, was kind of like he just picked people who, like we said, had nothing else going on.
Yep.
Maybe they were kind of like we said, picked on, or they also dropped out and they were just hanging out at the Speedway. And it was just like, he wanted a bunch of people that looked up to him to be following him around. It just added to his persona, kind of like a lot of what's his face? Mayweather does. He's got like his giant
the money
group
team
of bodyguards that follow him around everywhere.
Yeah.
It just adds more to his persona, you know?
Yep, absolutely.
Kind of that kind of thing. And the whole dumpy Mary French thing, that was directly out of the book, so don't get upset at us. That was Harold Schechter's term.
Right.
Mary French had fallen hopelessly in love with Schmid. The couple told Schmid's mother that they had gotten married, and she allowed them to live together for a month before she learned the truth. So Mary French, she, like the others, had nothing else going on, and she looked up to Schmid, thought he was really cool, and like kind of followed him around like a puppy dog, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's what he loved most about. He wanted a girl to just follow him around. He didn't even care if they were like necessarily all that attractive or anything like that. He just wanted someone to idolize him. That's what that was his favorite trait in another person, is if they idolized him, that made them perfect.
Oh, definitely. Everyone that he came in contact with was a victim, dude. If you think about it, he just used them in different ways.
Yeah, you're right.
Every single
You're
one.
right.
They were a victim in life, or they were or they become a victim to him, and he either takes advantage of them in a violent way, or he takes advantage of them as far as their time and their efforts.
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting something from everybody he encounters his whole life.
Mm-hmm. Despite his many other girlfriends, Mary clung to the idea that he would someday marry her. With that in mind, she got a job at the local hospital and turned her paychecks over to Schmid.
That's incredible.
So just in hopes that he's going to marry her, she's giving him all her paychecks.
Plus, he's still getting the money from his mom.
Yeah, dude, he's balling at this
balling.
point. He's just got women giving him money all over the place.
Yep.
Sometime in the spring of 1964, Schmid shared with Saunders and French a fantasy that he had been harboring for quite some time and was determined to act out. Quote, "I want to kill someone," he said. "I want to kill a girl."
Yikes! And this is where This is where it turns dark, folks. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's one thing to have free time and money, and you're bored, and you want to go out and do some rebellious stuff. But this is points more towards psychopath. You don't just you just come up with this idea. I think I want to kill someone.
Yeah, and as far as
In
we
the early
know,
'60s too, when there wasn't a ton of murder culture, that was kind of out of the norm back then, I would think.
I think there's fewer things scarier than a guy in his position that's been given everything they want, and then he has the complexes that he has, and then he's put in this situation of power. Like, he feels like probably genetically that he's been shit on, the world shit on him, his parents didn't want him. You see what I'm coming from? I feel like this is
everyone's kind of pushing him out. Even by giving him money, they're almost kind of like, here, just get out of here.
Yeah, it's like he can tell that they don't have any love or real affection towards him, and I think he's like, okay, well, fine, I'll take all of your resources, and I'll get back at society another way
for evil.
Yeah.
So the first murder that he would be a part of was a girl named Eileen Rowe. She was a blonde 15-year-old high school sophomore. She lived a few doors down from Mary French. The girls were polar opposites, but they were friendly enough that Aileen's relationship with Mary concerned her mother. Miss Rowe was a newly divorced night shift nurse who was concerned that Mary's lifestyle and the crew that she hung around with, namely Schmid, were going to have a bad influence on her daughter. So she wasn't really good friends with them, but them being a few doors down, you can picture Schmid being out in his driveway working on his hot rod or whatever.
Yeah.
And he ends up talking to young Eileen Rowe. And even just the minor kind of little friendship that they had was really starting to bother her mother, because she knew that this guy was a creep. I mean, he's just everything about him. He's older, he's caked on makeup and freaking driving around in hot rods and just up to no good. Like, he has nothing going on.
Well, mothers
She's just really kind of concerned. Yeah, she got a bad sense from him.
Yeah, you get the idea too. You realize when kids or when people are trying to appeal to other people. And if she sees the way that he's out in his yard working, he's probably got cigarettes rolled up in his sleeve or some shit, Dude,
imagine your daughter in a few years and this fucker's living a couple doors down from you talking to your daughter, man. You'd be out there trying to punk his ass.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely be a privacy fence going
Bro, you're too old to be talking to my daughter. Get the fuck out of here. I don't want to see you talking to her. I would definitely...
Right.
Every time she was outside, I'd be outside standing next to her, staring at him.
Yeah, just staring at him.
Yeah.
Just glaring at him.
But there wasn't that father figure around to do that. The mother was a nurse, a night nurse, man. That's super difficult to be a single mother,
right?
A night nurse, man. She's as concerned as she was, there was only so much she could do. She basically just had to talk to her daughter and tell her to please stay away from him. But the lure, the Pied Piper was calling,
That's right. She could hear the flute from her window.
Stay away. Yeah. On the evening of May 31st, 1964, Eileen was sitting at home watching TV. Around 9 p.m., when her mother was getting ready for work, Eileen went through the motions of getting ready for school the next day and going to bed. However, the next afternoon, Eileen failed to return home from school at her usual time. Miss Rowe noticed that her school books were still in her bedroom, and when she called to the school, they told her that Eileen had been absent that day. Miss Rowe immediately called the police to report Eileen missing. At first, she was brushed off by Tucson police as they had an unusually high amount of teen runaways at that time. So it was, like we said, the rebellious stage, post-50s, early 1960s. This is pretty common right now going on.
Right.
The book went through a few instances of girls that were similar to Eileen that had run away recently and then been discovered a few days later riding around in some hot shots, fucking hot rod.
Yeah, but at this time was running out though, right? It had already been a couple days, and it was not.
And Miss Rowe knew. Yeah. Miss Rowe knew this was not her daughter. She went through a room and found no clothes missing. The only thing that was missing was the bathing suit that Eileen was wearing that night when she had last seen her. And so that's she's not going out for a day or two with only wearing the bikini she was wearing at the time.
Right.
Clearly something had gone wrong that night. Miss Rowe persisted and eventually convinced police to pick up and question Schmid. That was initially who she thought of right away. It was the creep a few doors down.
Yep. She never doubted it.
Yeah. He very smoothly lied to the police and claimed that he had no idea where Eileen was and that he had not seen her the night before. There was no doubt in Mrs. Rowe's mind that Eileen was dead, and her ex-husband agreed as well. So let's talk about the night that Eileen died. Schmid's girlfriend, Mary French, had convinced Rowe to go out with Schmid Schmid's friend John Saunders. Yeah, so Mary shows up to Aleen's window in the middle of the night, and after some talking to her and convincing, she finally convinced. This is the story that was told later on by Mary French.
Right. They're trying to set up a double date here, pretty much. Right.
But that's what they're trying to convince Aleen of.
Yeah.
But they've already planned to kill her.
Well,
This is all manifested in the evil little mind of freaking Schmitty over there. That was his nickname, Schmitty.
Yeah.
Or
Schmitty.
Schmitty or Schmitty. I think it's with a D, Schmitty.
Yeah, Schmitty.
Or no, Smitty, not with the but a Smitty.
Okay, now we've cleared it up.
This is a Schmitty conversation. I don't know why we're even going down
let's get
this
off
road.
the Schmidt right now.
Enough with the shit.
Yeah.
Schmid. Stupid. So basically what happened was Schmidt had sat down with Saunders and Mary and said, this is the girl we're going to kill. They'd made like a short list of girls, and this one just fit the bill because she was a few doors down. Her mom worked nights. I'm sure Schmid knew that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And so it was an easy target. And this is like basically their plan was to have Mary go over there and convince her to come out with the whole guise of being a double date and all that, and was finally able to convince this young girl to come out with them. The group went to Aleen's house to pick her up after her mother went to work for the evening. The group drove out to the edge of the desert and sat around drinking beer. This was like a common spot where a lot of kids went out. It's like the drinking spot in the desert.
Right.
All of a sudden, Schmid grabbed a hold of Aleen and tied her arms together with a guitar string he produced from his pocket. He then took off Aleen's clothes and laid her down on the ground, and he ordered Saunders to rape her, but he refused, saying it didn't excite him. Saunders walked away to smoke a cigarette, and about 20 minutes later, Schmid called him over. When he got there, Roe was on her feet and putting her bathing suit back on. Roe then walked off down the wash, and the two men followed her. Schmid quietly tried to hand Saunders a rock and pointed towards Roe. Saunders again refused, and Schmid told him to go get French. She was back at the car at the time. By the time Saunders got back to the car, French having refused to leave, Aleen was lying in the wash, her face covered in blood. Schmid was kneeling over her with blood on his hands, so he had apparently beaten Aleen to death with this rock. While all of this occurred, Mary French was waiting in the car and listening to the radio. Afterwards, the three buried her in a makeshift hole. So, like you said, the others along for the ride, kind of victims themselves. Obviously, you wish that these young, uneducated kids would have done something to stop this, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. They should have done something, yes, but it's like they're obviously nowhere near the same level of blame, and we see that later with the justice system. They don't get the same punishment that Schmid gets, and rightfully so. This was all his doing. This never would have happened without him.
And I think
they never would have taken it upon
terrified.
themselves to do anything like this. Yeah, they're scared of this guy. Obviously, probably more now after seeing what he's capable of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about Paul Ginn and Richie Bruns. In the summer of 1964, John Saunders enlisted in the Navy. So he Schmid lost one of his disciples there temporarily. Initially, Schmid lost his most devoted sidekick, but fortunately he had no shortage of loyal lackeys. Paul Ginn was a delinquent who had done time at Fort Grant Reformatory. At age 15, he shot and killed an Air Force captain during a botched robbery. Richie Bruns did 2 stints at Fort Grant for burglary before he turned 18 and never progressed beyond his sophomore year in high school. Bruns was with Schmid when he made a trip to San Diego, suggesting they catch a couple of girls, rape them, and kill them. Fortunately for the girls of San Diego, they came up empty-handed and soon went back to Tucson.
Yeah,
This
bro.
Bruns character is interesting. We'll talk a lot about him later because he actually ended up writing a book about this whole relationship he had with Schmid back then. He was the biggest reason why Schmid later gets taken down. But at the time, he was one of Schmid's biggest accomplices. So it's an interesting character in this case. By the fall of 1964, Schmid had begun to brag that he had murdered Aleen Rowe with the help of Mary French and John Saunders. According to Paul Ginn, Schmid had offered to take him to where she was buried, but Ginn had no interest in going. A lot of that was to do with the fact that Ginn just didn't believe him because Schmid was the type of guy to tell a lot of tall tales.
Yeah, he thought he was full of shit.
Apparently had hooked up with every girl in town and beat up everybody. You know, he's just that guy. He's always bragging. Little man syndrome, like we said.
But at the same time, he's also someone who would not be able to keep this secret, which was a good thing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That ego eventually took him down, ironically.
Yeah. In late 1964, Saunders was back in Tucson, having been discharged from the Navy because of his asthma. Schmid, Saunders, and Brunn went out to the desert to go rabbit hunting. So he's got another one of his loyal lackeys back. So while the three are out rabbit hunting, Schmid and Saunders left Brunn alone and walked into a wash together under the guise of scaring up some rabbits. However, they didn't return for almost 30 minutes. When Brunn asked where they had gone, Schmid confessed that he had been the one to murder Aline Rowe and that they had gone down to where she was buried and poked a stick in the ground to see if it smelled after she'd been there for so long. Now let's talk about Gretchen Fritz. One of Schmid's many girlfriends was a girl named Gretchen Fritz. She was the daughter of a prominent Tucson heart surgeon and a community leader. The couple had a very hot and cold relationship. Either they were expressing their undying love or they were at each other's throats. Schmid set up to secure Fritz's monogamy by setting up an anonymous letter to Tucson Health Department claiming she had a venereal disease and then spreading the word as well. That's a maniacal, freaking possessive ass move right there.
Yes, it is.
You call up and spread word that she has VD to everybody.
Yeah, that's extremely shitty and selfish.
She had a bit of a reputation before he'd gotten with her, and I think that was part of his concern was that she was kind of known to get around. Mm-hmm. But then when she met Smitty, she like immediately fell for his whole shtick, the bad boy routine and the pouty lips and all that.
Right. And
they became a thing, and they were obviously constantly hot and cold, fighting all the time, and she was doing her part as well with her stuff. It wasn't just him. Fritz did her part by constantly threatening to blackmail Schmid. Schmid made a big mistake and confessed to her that he had murdered Aline Rowe, and that gave her a big freaking hill to stand on as far as blackmail. There were also rumors that Fritz knew of an earlier unsubstantiated murder that Schmid allegedly committed. When Schmid decided to break up with Fritz, she threatened to use the information against him. Obviously, he should have seen that coming.
Yeah, seriously.
On August 16th, 1965, Fritz and her 13-year-old sister, Wendy, left home to go to the local drive-in to see a movie. They would never return. The next day, the girls' parents called the police, who brushed them off, suggesting they probably had run away. That's typical, right? How often is this? There must be more runaways than we think. We always blame the police like... They always just say it's a runaway, but maybe they're constantly getting runaways.
There's got to be, dude.
But that being said, you still should do your due diligence, as a police officer. But
yeah, I don't know. I guess you hear the same thing after same thing, man. It's like a mechanic.
Yeah. 6 days after the girls had been reported missing, their car was found outside of the Flamingo Motor Hotel. Wherever they had gone, it was now apparent they didn't go in that car. Gretchen's purse, keys, cash, and 2 tickets to the drive-in were found on one of the front seats. The girl's mother immediately suspected foul play. She said that Gretchen would have never voluntarily left those things behind. Sometime during the investigation, Schmid confided to his friend Richie Bruns that he had murdered the sisters and showed Bruns the bodies buried haphazardly in the desert. He commented to Richie, he convinced Richie to go out there and see the bodies. Richie probably was a little skeptical and like, fine, I'll go out there and call your bluff. They went out there. Sure enough, in the middle of the night, they were able to locate the bodies of both girls, and basically Richie helped him to half-assedly bury the two because they had concerns because these two sisters, they were family members of mob people. You remember that part of the book?
Yes.
At one point, like an uncle who was connected to the mob showed up at Schmidt's house and talked to him and said, if I find out that you had anything to do with this, so it's coming out of your ass, basically, like you're dead if I found out you did this. Because he knew that Schmitty had been dating her, and so they immediately went to him and they saw what kind of character he was. They suspected him, and so now Schmitty's nervous and he takes his accomplice out there to bury the bodies out of fear that not the police, but that the mob's going to find the bodies and know he did this and kill him.
You know what else though? I think he also was bringing Richie out there to get him in because he knew once Richie buried those bodies, he's like, "Look, dude, you're an accomplice now." He
literally said that after they half-assedly buried the bodies, as they were walking away, Schmitty said to Richie, each time it gets easier, and he said, now you're in this just as much as I am.
Yeah, and that's what you need. You need everyone, because everyone else was either there when the murder happened or had something else to do with it. But Richie was the only one that didn't even believe that he was a murderer. So he convinced him, which probably also gained his loyalty out of fear. And then now he has him, somewhat legally bound as well.
Yep. In early September 1965, Schmid fell wildly in love with a girl named Diane Lynch. After a whirlwind courtship in which Schmid managed to impress her parents with, quote, a gentlemanly behavior, the two decided to wed. You know, like I feel like that's a red flag. As a father, later when my daughter starts dating young dudes, if they try too hard to be overly cordial and nice,
yeah.
and like I'm really looking at him a little sideways. I'm like, why can't you just be real with me? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to be nice and whatnot and to be polite and all that, but like sometimes it's over the top. And like I remember my wife, her ex-boyfriend, like I met her as she was dating that dude, and he was a douchebag. But I remember his behavior with now my mother-in-law. She totally bought into it because I used to hang around them, and I would see the way he would act, and then he would leave with my now wife, and when they were dating, and he would be like a totally different like douchebag, much like Schmid we were talking about here.
Interesting.
Like he was like hot rod fucking Joe over here, all cool guy, and like
yeah.
And then when he would pull up to her parents' house and go in, he'd be like, "Hey, Mrs. Blah blah blah," like you know, all phony. It's like I'm gonna smell that shit out, man.
Dude, you know they say that that's a like a growing trend with people of our generation is where you know, because I guess because we grew up with the internet and we see all these societal norms and all these scams and stuff in front of us all the time. We see people at their fakest because we grew up with the social media and
now
shit.
That now that you've had 3 years living in Vegas, maybe you can understand what I mean when I say like growing up in Vegas, I think you have a higher bullshit meter too.
Yes.
It's like just walking around, you get people coming up to you, feeding you bullshit. Like you can't walk to the parking lot of like a gas station or anything without someone coming up to you with a gas can. Like,
yeah. Everybody's
got
a scam.
bro?
Everybody's
like,
trying to hustle.
Where'd you get the gas can? You just carry a gas can around with you in your car, so that if you run out of gas, you can go scam strangers, like, or like trying to sell you speakers out of the back of their van, or whatever. Like, it never ends.
You're right though. Your bullshit meter is on high alert. Because
I basically walk around. I basically walk around 24/7 with one eyebrow raised, like skeptical fucking snake over here. Like, huh? Really? Yeah, I don't buy it. Get out of my face. We need to do more Boston accents. We lost touch with
the guy's bleeding on the sidewalk. Hey, you're fine.
Get real.
Calling you an ambulance. You want to rob me if I come over there? Shut the hell up.
Get real.
It's like screaming in agony.
That's corn syrup. That ain't blood. Get
you're really selling it, huh, pal?
I see the ketchup packet on your leg.
I was eating a hot dog earlier, please. Whatever, man.
Yeah. What sucker gave you a hot dog, you bastard?
Get a job.
Yeah. Said you were hungry. Now you're eating hot dogs? I don't get it. Such an asshole.
Right.
So yeah, he's trying to impress her parents with the gentlemanly behavior. They buy into it initially, and the two decided to wed, even though it wasn't even legal. But they found a way because Diane was only 15 at the time. Schmid was 23. Gross.
Yeah.
And too young to marry in Arizona. Even with the parental consent, they still couldn't marry. So the two went to Mexico to get married. The newlyweds, they'd only known each other for a month, by the way. The newlyweds quickly settled into a life of happy domesticity, which lasted all of a month. Yeah, shocker. Didn't last forever. And that's how the story ends, guys.
Well,
he learned from his murderous ways and turned it around, and now he just sits around playing dice with his wife.
Right.
Still to this day.
Oh, we could
Who
only
was 8
hope.
years younger than him.
Right.
When he was 23.
Right.
So Richie Bruns became increasingly afraid that Schmid was going to murder his girlfriend, whom he had previously dated. After only a few dates, Richie had proposed to Kathy Morath. She unfortunately did not return his feelings and sent the ring back the next day. She said yes initially, then after, upon further thought, sent the ring back the next day, effectively breaking up with him. Now, if I remember the book right, Schmid had already proposed to Kathy prior to this, and they had broken off. He had given her some bogus ass ring. It was like a piece of glass on top of a band or something. She said no. And then his buddy Richie got with her and proposed to her, and he actually gave her a real ring, which meant more. She said yes initially, and then she decided no. And there's a lot of proposals going around with these teenage kids in their early 60s after barely knowing each other. Good idea. No wonder the divorce rate started skyrocketing after this.
Yeah, but that's what you did, man. It's like the sooner you got with somebody, you know what I mean, and you're spending a lot of time with these people. You're running away. You're spending time with them. You're counting on them. They're kind of like your family, you know?
It's another thing. It's another thing I think millennials are getting right. They're waiting to get married. They're waiting on a lot of important life decisions now, which is good. I think it'll help things in
I
the long
agree.
run. After proposing and getting the ring returned, Bruns started sending love letters to her house to try and win her back. When that did not work, he had Schmid punch him in the face a few times, and then he broke into her house to claim that he had beat up someone who had called her a whore.
Nice.
And after bleeding all over her furniture and everything like that, she still didn't take him back, and it was all for
Dudes,
naught.
man, they'll do anything. Right? It's just like, do you even want to be in a relationship where that's the basis of it? Like, let's say everything went your way and she said yes. For the rest of your life, you're going to be like, man, she just said yes out of guilt because I told her I beat somebody up when I really just got punched in the face by my friend. For the rest of your life? That's what
Right.
you want to start it on?
Yeah, and she's gonna be thinking, man, I didn't want to be with him, but I felt bad that he got
Exactly.
beat up over
Exactly.
something.
No.
Like that's really not gonna work. But you're young, you're emotional, you're hormonal, and remember my wife and I, when we were dating early on, we had a bump in the road where we'd been smoking hookah. That was kind of a thing we do to go to hookah lounges and stuff. When we were late teens, and her parents found her camera with us smoking hookah on it and freaked out and like forbid her from seeing me. And they basically said, you can't talk to him for at least 2 weeks until we clear this thing up and all that, and took her phone. What did I do? Young, hormonal, in love, went out, bought a pay-as-you-go phone, delivered it to her work, and we were texting like that night.
Yep.
You know, it was just. And I remember my dad telling me, "Don't worry," because I was freaking out, like she's never gonna talk to me again. And he was like, "Don't worry, she'll find a way. If it's meant to be, she's gonna find a way to talk to
Yep.
you. Teenagers always do." And that's next thing you know.
That's so true, man.
So, and it all worked out. We're still together.
There you
2
go.
kids later.
It's-
you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes it works
Yep.
out. Yeah. Bruns became practically possessed and took to round-the-clock surveillance of her house. Eventually, Marath's father called the police, and Bruns was arrested. Bruns' lawyer struck a plea deal in court and got him off with only 6 months probation as long as he agreed to leave Tucson until he got over his infatuation. Bruns went to stay with his grandparents in Ohio, and it only took a few days before he was on the phone with his father, telling him everything that he knew about Schmid's murder. Now, I believe his biggest concern and why he ended up turning to the police and telling them everything that Schmid had done and he had seen and heard was due to the fact that he was really concerned for Kathy's safety. He was worried that she would be the next victim
It seemed like
of
it.
Schmid.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it seemed that way. And so that's possible that was what it was about. And like I said, this is the guy that ended up writing a book shortly after Schmidt's conviction, and after him testifying and him basically getting Schmid arrested. He wrote a book, and he wrote this book and it never got published, and he basically stowed it away with a bunch of junk, and he ends up living his life, and he has daughters. And 40 years later, his daughters are going through his attic, going through all of his stuff, and they find this manifesto, this book that he had written about his experience with Schmid, witnessing the stuff he had witnessed, testifying against him, like the whole full-on book. There was grammatical errors and issues that they cleaned up, but they left the book kind of like, it was like a time capsule.
Yeah.
Like it captured the time period he talked the way he talked back in the 1960s. He was fresh in his early 20s out of this whole thing. And so I heard an interview with his daughter who went ahead and cleaned up the book and published it kind of as is. And I heard an interview with her talking about the whole thing and how fascinating it is. Like you're getting his take on it right after this whole thing went down. And she said that she's glad that he never changed it or like never decided to publish it, because he probably would have, changed. His opinions would have changed over all the years. And so you're getting like a fresh look at that time period. So I want to actually kind of like wouldn't mind getting that book, even though once we're done with this case, we're probably gonna have to move on to something else. But if you guys are interested in this case, maybe that's a book you should get.
God, I wish I'd have known about it beforehand. Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Man, what was it called? It was called like
It's Richie
was like
Bruns. Richie Bruns' book, right?
Yeah, Richie Bruns' book. His daughters published it.
Let's see.
Yeah. Anyways,
Go ahead.
yeah. So he in fear that Kathy's gonna be killed by Schmid, calls his dad, confesses everything. His dad immediately calls the police. The police contact Bruns and say, "Hey, you want to tell us what happened?" And he says, "Absolutely." And so he flies back home and tells them everything. they asked if he would be willing to come back and show them where the bodies were. He agreed. The next day, a detective from Tucson flew to escort Bruns home. After getting a few hours of sleep, Bruns and several officers headed out to the desert. Schmid was quickly arrested. The day the detective showed up, he had only been married to Diane for 22 days. He was booked on 2 counts of murder. Saunders and French were also arrested for their part in Eileen Rowe's murder. They both immediately confessed and offered to help officers locate the body. Unfortunately, they were not successful in remembering the correct spot. Police and civilian crews searched for the next several days, but Eileen's body was never found.
Wow.
Well, not found then, but they did later find it with Schmidt's
Right.
help.
Hey,
In exchange for the...
I was going to say real
What's
quick,
up?
I found that book.
Yeah.
It's called I, a Squealer. So like I, comma,
That's
a
right.
Squealer.
Like basically I ratted, like I squealed
The
to the top.
insider's account of the Pied Piper of Tucson murders by Richard Bruns.
Yes.
So
Yeah, so maybe we get that book and revisit this case later on, or maybe if you guys are interested in this case, that'd be a good book for if you're really into true crime. Like a person who was kind of unwillingly a witness in this, kind of, I mean, you can see how this happened with him. At first he didn't believe Smitty, and all right, I'll go out and call your bluff and go out to the desert and see these quote unquote bodies out here.
At that point, who wouldn't do that?
Here.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like I would if I was involved with somebody and they're like I killed somebody and out here, and
you get out there and
especially
you're
if you
like,
didn't
oh
believe
fuck,
them.
there's actually bodies out here,
Yeah.
and the mob's connected to this, and now I'm a part of it. Schmitty just said, now you're in this as deep as I am.
Yeah, not cool.
Yeah. So let's talk about the trial. In exchange for their cooperation in testifying against Schmid, both Saunders and French received reduced sentences. Like we said earlier, I don't think they should have had the same sentence regardless, because they were along for the ride. Like I said, they were still guilty and not trying to stop what happened, but they were under the influence of this character. He always had younger disciples too, so that he had power over them in that sense. Saunders, because like at the time, dude who wrote the book, Bruns, he was 15 when Schmitty was like 19 or something. So like the people were always several years younger. He had a cool car, all that stuff. So he always had like this.
Yeah, and they're all at vulnerable ages, man. And like you said, he has a car, they don't. They're too young to drive, or maybe their families couldn't afford to get him a car, and he had freedom. Yeah. He offered freedom.
They didn't know what was true and what wasn't with him. He's always telling tall tales, and then he's telling him he killed someone, and so part of it's like, and he's saying he wants to kill someone, and they take this girl in the desert. Maybe the whole time they're thinking he's not actually going to do it, and then he does it. They find, they see her laying in this freaking wash with all bloody, and he's got a bloody rock in his hand. And French she stayed in the car with the music playing. Not that means she's completely innocent. She's still, not like we said, not stopping, but at the same time, she obviously was not a murderer. She was just like, oh my God, what's going on?
But she had to have known that if she tried to intervene or tried to freak out, Smitty would kill her too. I mean, he wasn't, because he obviously didn't really care about her, or he would have been with her. Right. I mean, I know she always thought that he was going to marry her, but in his mind, that was never an option. She was in the friend zone forever.
Saunders received life in prison but escaped the death penalty, and French was charged with accessory, receiving only 4 to 5 years. Schmid's trial began on February 15th, 1966, and would last 2 weeks. On March 1st, after a mere 30-minute deliberation, the jury found Schmid guilty of third-degree murder. 10 days later, he was sentenced to death. The following spring, he was put on trial for the murder of Eileen Rowe and shocked everyone involved by pleading guilty to second-degree murder. That didn't last long, however. He received a life sentence for the second-degree charge. The media heavily focused their attention on the Schmid case and trial. Life and Playboy magazines sent reporters to Schmid's trial. Time did features on a contemporary life in Tucson and the murders of the young women F. Lee Bailey, a celebrity attorney who was involved in the Boston Strangler and Sam Shepard cases from the 1950s and 60s, was brought in for consultation. And Rowe's remains were eventually found in 1967 when the state of Arizona temporarily abolished the death penalty. In 1971, Schmid's sentence was commuted to 50 years in prison. That's because, it's not in the crime line, but the book explained that he pleads guilty.
Right.
And they give him that, they reduce it from death penalty to life sentence. And then he goes, you know what? Fuck that. I didn't do it. That story that they told you about me hitting her in the head with a rock, that's not true at all. It was actually... he said it was actually Saunders who went out there and strangled her.
Now that he had time to think about it.
And if when I lead you to the body, you'll see that there's no damage to her skull, showing that she was actually strangled, not struck in the head by me, and it was Saunders who strangled her.
Bro.
So he actually they call his bluff. They go, okay,
Yeah.
show us where the body
Let's
is.
go see.
He brings her. They dig around a few spots where he points. She's not there, and then he sees some tree on the hill, and he goes, "That's where she is." They go up there. They start digging. They find her. Schmitty pulls her skull out. They actually let Schmitty, for whatever reason, like the book described him grabbing the skull out of the sand, picking it up, and going, "Look, there's no marks on her skull," and that proves I'm innocent or whatever. But upon further inspection by someone who's a professional, they found damage at the base of her skull. They found blood in the cracks in her
Totally
skull, which proved
backfired.
that she was alive when she was struck. And they checked her neck, like her neck area, and they found no signs of her being strangled as well. So that basically did him in.
Right. Not only did it work against him, it confirmed that he was lying. That's awesome.
Right. Yep. But as they abolished the death penalty in 1971, his sentence was commuted to 50 years. After his incarceration, Schmid attempted to escape from prison multiple times, and finally succeeded in November 11th, 1972, when he and another triple murderer, a guy named Raymond Hudgens, escaped from Arizona State Prison. They held 4 hostages on a ranch near Tempe, Arizona, then 8 at a Sonic, and finally separated. They were finally recaptured and returned to prison. Yeah,
Oh, you want to go get one more cola dog, a chili dog, and a slush?
Yeah. What's those commercials
happy
with the
hour,
two
dude.
goofy dudes? I picture the commercial with the 2 goofy dudes for Sonic sitting there. That's like how they were after they escaped from prison. A couple of triple murderers just hanging
Sitting
out.
there
having
eating Sundays.
Yeah. Sonic's not bad as far as fast food goes. It's all right. It's a little overly salty, I think,
Yeah.
but they got some good options. They got like, hey, if you want a chili dog or something, they got some like interesting options. And what's that drink they have? Ocean water, delicious.
Oh no, I haven't had that.
I mean, if I escape from prison, I've been on death row for a while, and I see a Sonic, I'm stopping.
Hell yeah, that'd be fine.
just saying.
Especially if it's between 2 and 4, man. I used to go get that cherry lemonade slush. Oh my god, had like
Right.
real cherries floating around in there and shit.
Yes.
It's good stuff.
They're finally recaptured and returned to prison, and in the early 1970s, Schmid became interested in poetry.
Oh.
He sent his work from prison to a professor at the University of Arizona named Richard Shelton. Quote, "For all the wrong reasons, I critiqued his work and discovered that he was quite talented," Shelton says.
Damn it. It's not what I wanted to hear.
Do you have a minute to pull, while I keep going on about like his the rest of his life, do you have a minute to pull up some of his poetry? See if you can find it. I want to see if we can finish the episode with a poem from this douchebag.
right.
Not to celebrate him, but hopefully it's shitty, and this professor was wrong.
I hope.
Let's talk about his death. On March 10th, 1975, Schmid, this is a poetic justice here. This is one of those that ends well, really. The death penalty, he kind of got off on that, but he ended up being stabbed 47 times by 2 fellow prisoners. After losing an eye and a kidney, he is said to have died on March 30th, 1975, so it took 20 days after being stabbed 47 times for him to finally die as a result of the attack. So then they found prison found a couple of shanks in a dumpster that the prisoners, they never found a reason. They found out who the inmates were that had done it. I'm sure they had nothing to lose. They were probably never getting out of prison
Right.
anyway. And those 2 prisoners never gave a reason why they did it. I'm sure it didn't take much. Maybe he looked at them wrong or bumped into them, or who knows. Maybe they found out what he did, that he killed young girls.
Oh yeah, dude, it
who
could be
knows?
anything. Could be anything.
Yeah. Following his death, Schmid's mother chose the prison cemetery for his burial, believing that if he was buried in a public cemetery, his tombstone might be defaced. I was going to say defecated. Maybe. He received a Catholic funeral at the prison, although he was not in the casket. After Schmid's trial and conviction, Catherine Schmid and her second husband owed her son's legal team more money than they possessed. As a result, they ended up living in near poverty in Coolidge, Arizona. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. So his mom, his adopted parents were well off, and his mom always giving him all the money he ever wanted, and it ended up making them go broke because he became a freaking murderous creep, and his legal team demanded so much money they went completely broke.
From his parents.
Crazy.
From his adopted family.
Yeah,
right?
he had so much legal fees from all of his trials and everything that his adopted parents went broke trying to pay for it all.
Wow.
That's crazy that they were still. I mean, maybe they didn't have the option to not pay for it. I don't know. Well, the fact they must have, because they could have just given him a, state appointed attorney or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they chose to get him a real legal team. So that's on them, I guess.
Wow.
But
Well,
did you find any?
dude, I'm not
any,
finding
of his
like an
poems?
actual poem. I'm finding a bunch of information about how it was.
Well, here's what we'll
published.
do. I don't know if you already made the intro.
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, if you find some, like dig around, if you find find one of his poems, maybe add it to the intro.
That's a great idea because I already have music. I just don't have any. I don't have words, so it's perfect.
Perfect. Right on. So maybe you guys already heard one of his poems. You're living in the
That's
future.
right.
I don't know.
They're so advantaged, man. They're
Right.
so lucky.
So how are things in the future, guys? Like,
Right.
how's global warming going? Is it really
Is it
fucking
still
hot?
hot? Still hot? Feels hot. All right, so that's the Pied Piper, right?
Yeah, man. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Always pay your debts, man. I'm like a Lannister. I always pay my debts, or you never know when the Pied Piper's going to come calling, drag your kids away into a lake.
Yeah,
So.
or like the IRS.
Yeah,
Right.
they're just as bad as the Pied Piper. Drag you right behind bars.
Right. Take everything you own while you're at it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, let's do some shout outs. Oh my
Yeah,
Gaia.
let's do Oh My Gaia first.
I just got a care package. I posted what Wendy sent
Uh-huh.
me on Instagram. I'm sure some of you guys saw that. I'm wearing oatmeal. She sent me some oatmeal for free
Nice.
just to try out. I smell delicious. Like somebody needs to just sprinkle some fucking raisins on me. I smell like you could eat my armpits right now. So good.
So good. Sitting in,
I love it. It's
dude,
so
you were living lavish right now. Sitting in your recliner, smelling like
Dude.
oatmeal.
I really feel like a lord or some sort of
Yeah,
king.
you should.
Like someone should bring me a chalice with some red wine in it.
Very nice. All right.
I drink and I know
Well,
things.
if you too want to feel like a king, you can get some Oh My Gaia as well. Oh My Gaia.
I see what you
see
did
I
there.
Oh My Gaia is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. Guys, there's a ton of scents, one of which is a new one, oatmeal. There's also vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, and we have our very own scent.
What scent do you think Schmitty would have worn? I have an idea. I'm pretty sure I know which
Oh,
one.
which one would he have worn?
Yeah.
Oof.
Say it in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Leather. Oh, damn it. I was looking at leather and lumberjack. I was going back and forth, but I was like, wait a second. Lauren identifies with lumberjack. He wouldn't say lumberjack. He's going to say leather. See that?
Yep.
Whew.
For sure.
That was a long
leather.
thought process. But yeah, definitely leather. He probably smelled like leather anyways, because when it was cold, he wore one of those damn leather jackets, which is not often in
If
Tucson.
Wendy had grease, like engine grease scent, he probably would have chose that.
Mix that in with some of the leather. Yes.
Now you're
Leather
talking.
and grease.
Schmitty scent.
Right. But we have our very own scent called True Crime Pine. Has our old school headshot logo on there, and it was made specifically for us, which is pretty dope. But you guys can get any of these scents for 15% off with the code word CREEPER, CREEPER, at ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com or at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram.
Just do it. Just do it. If you're thinking about trying it, don't think. Just do it.
Just do it.
It's amazing. It won't give your armpits cancer, or I don't know. Is that how it works? Is your arm? No, I'm sure it just gets in your bloodstream, and it's just not good having aluminum and paraben and all that crap in your bloodstream, guys. Just don't do it.
They're not natural
And
chemicals.
and guess what? Antiperspirants aren't good for you either. They clog up your sweat glands and all that shit, and bad stuff can happen. So get something that isn't necessarily going to prevent you from sweating, but it's going to make your sweat smell delicious and make people want to lick it out of your armpits. I've seen it happen. It's kind of awkward, but also flattering at the same time.
There you go.
When you have strangers coming up trying to lick your armpits, it's kind of like when dogs come up and sniff each other's
Right.
butts. That's what happens when you wear
Well,
God.
I hope that one day we will live in a world where that's a normal thing. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Okay. So I think this is our first step towards it, and I think Oh My Gaia is helping us get there. All right.
Right on. I want to thank the people who have gone this week and rated and reviewed our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you're listening. If there's a way to rate it, go do it. Even if you don't want to write anything, you just click 5 stars. But the best way to get a shout out on the show is by writing us a little
That's
review.
right.
And shout out to all those people who get so butthurt about us still to this day making the freeloader jokes,
I
because we
know.
got another 1-star this week about that, and it's just, honestly, I love it. It's just funny. It's like, man, there's some people that take themselves
It
way
really
too
is fun
seriously.
though. It's just like it's like a little goodie that I get to look at. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's good. I mean, that kind of 1-star review, I'm totally happy with that. That's totally fine. You didn't knock on our sound quality. You didn't knock on the show content. You didn't say anything bad about the show in a way that people actually care about. You just got butthurt over being called a freeloader. That's fine with me. That works.
Yep. So I want to say thanks to Roro Post, DRock35. My name is Aaron. Says we're the best of the best.
Word.
And Bina Jet says we're hilarious and informative. So thank you guys for taking the time to do that. If you have a minute, go do it. And if you have a minute and a couple bucks a month to spare, go over to patreon.com/truecrimeguys. Check out all of our bonus content. Check out Michael's show, Higher Thoughts,
That's right.
where he talks to listeners, answers questions. He has his wife on. He has different guests on. He had Esther on. He had me on once.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun with that, talking all kinds of shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's a great show.
You know what I'm thinking?
And
This is a totally
What's up?
crazy idea. But I kind of wanted to get some listener feedback to see if people would even be interested in this. I thought about putting out on social media what time exactly I'm going to be recording Higher Thoughts, and then maybe have like my Skype line open so people could literally just call me
Ooh.
during the show.
we got a caller on line 3.
Yeah, that would be dope, right? But it would still be
Candy
pre-recorded,
card.
like it wouldn't be broadcasted live, but you could still literally call into Higher Thoughts while, but let's see. It needs to be broadcasted live somehow, doesn't it?
I know of a service called Mixler. Mixler.com makes it very easy to broadcast live.
Really?
Try that shit out. Yes.
Okay.
Mixler, it has an app, and people can download the app on their phone if we ever wanted to do it live for whatever reason. But for sure, like I've seen other podcasts do it, and it works well. And people can comment live. They can listen live. Very easy. You just set your mixer to be the port for it.
Okay.
And yeah, try it out. And so once you get that set up, just tweet out the link to your Mixler page or whatever, like Higher Thoughts, Mixler.
Yes.
And it also, if people go and they follow you on there, it lets them know, like it sends a notification to their phone that you just went live. So then you don't even have to tell them, like, I'm going live at this time. As soon as you go live, they get a notification that you're live, and they can jump on, comment, and listen. So
Okay.
very easy.
So that's definitely an option. Yeah, guys, let me get settled back in North Carolina, and we'll get this thing up and running. I may not do every
There you go.
episode this way, because there are going to be
No,
some
but try it
times.
out.
Yeah.
You probably love it, and then you end up will want to do it live every time. You never know.
Yeah,
It's like,
maybe.
Seems like it's like doing like your own radio show almost.
Yeah, that's a very cool thing. All right, I'll definitely look into that. Cool. So look forward to that in the future, guys.
Right on, people. All right. So next week we're putting out, speaking of Patreon, putting out a Patreon exclusive from 2 years ago. I think it might be time for the Ruby Ridge,
I think it's Ruby Ridge time.
Oklahoma bombing. Kind of a hot topic right now.
Yes.
Domestic terrorism with all these goddamn shootings that are going on. I'm tired of this shit, dude.
I'm tired.
People, if you think you're gonna go kill a bunch of people, just kill yourself, please. I mean, I know
Just
it
kill
sounds kind of harsh, but yeah, don't kill innocent people. Just stop.
Well, but
Or go get help. Go get counseling first.
dude, it's
Do something else other than killing random strangers. That's not fucking cool. Period. Never is it fucking cool. Dylan Roof and that other douchebag from Columbine are not fucking cool. No one that goes out and shoots a bunch of innocent people is fucking cool. Do not idolize them. They're assholes. Fuck
the
them.
problem is
I don't even think their name should be on TV.
No,
That's
they
why we
shouldn't
don't
be.
do. We've done maybe one mass shooting. I didn't like it. You know, it's just like, because to me it seems like they're doing it for their 15 minutes of fame most of the time. They're doing it because they think they're going to become famous in their afterlife or whatever.
yeah,
You know, it really is getting out of hand now.
it really is.
It's upsetting. Every time you turn on the TV or you get a notification on your phone, it's a fucking another mass shooting. It's disgusting.
Yes, and it's just if parents too, like if your teenagers, your young teenagers are living their lives online, like maybe reach out, because like
get them out of the house
yes,
and do some
because
stuff and
it's-
keep the guns fucking locked up and away from them.
right, because if they're having any types of these thoughts, they're gonna find millions of people who will back them up online, and
Yeah,
not only
check out
back
what
them
they're
up,
following and what
encourage
they're
them
seeing.
to do it.
Yep.
Like it's so scary, man. Like the people are out here. They're out here trying to get anybody that is feeling left out.
Yeah.
And honest to God, man, I think think about like the Kipling Kinkle case.
Yeah.
I mean, look, he's a great example. He come home every day. He got on his computer. It was right around the time the internet was becoming more popular and people were were ganging up on there. And he was getting on there and going on these same sites, these same forums. And we've talked about it countless times on here, but it's a recipe for disaster. It makes kids, especially in these formative years, feel out of touch.
Yeah.
And when you become out of touch with humans, you lose compassion for other humans.
Yeah.
And that's how these things are possible.
Yep.
It's terrifying, dude. I'm getting fucking chills just talking about it, man.
It's a scary time, dude.
It really is. It really is. Like, we need to reach out and connect with humans in real ways as much as possible.
Yep.
Seriously.
All right, guys. That being said, I mean, we do talk murder on our show. We'd like to think we're making the killers look bad, and we're propping up the victims, and we're also covering the psychological aspects of. We cover a lot of cases where the people, a lot of times they had something wrong with them, or their upbringing caused them to be angry at the world or whatever happened, and we're trying to help rather than idolize these people. So I hope you guys know that. I think you do if you're listening. So because we don't want to be a part of the problem. Definitely, we don't want to idolize any killers, man. That's not cool. So
absolutely not.
All right, on that heavy end to a comedy type of podcast, that's
right.
Gotta have some levity, but yeah. So enjoy the Freeloader series. Was like part 5 or something. It's like the 4th or 5th.
Yeah, episode 5. Yep.
Yeah, and Michael's going to be moving next week, I believe, right? And that's perfect timing.
That's right. It'll give me somewhat of a week off. I'll do the little intro shit, and
we'll be back the following week with a new Patreon exclusive.
Yes,
right on.
We will.
All right, guys. Well, enjoy your week, and we'll see you next week for the Freeloader Part 5.
All right, keep creeping, guys.
Keep creeping.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder charming.